with 5 quick tips for high achieving women of all ages. Here goes. Number 1, guilt is good and shame is shit. What do I mean by that? As humans, we want to live a happy life and we pursue happiness. However, we need to be careful that means we think it's normal that we need to be happy all the time. Of course, that's not true. A normal human life is ups and downs of emotions. How can we truly be happy if we never experience what it's like to be sad? Negative emotions can have an upside. There is an upside to your downside. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. They can be powerful, all of our emotions, in helping us change behavior and adopt healthier lifestyles. So, what I mean by guilt is good and shame is shit is that sometimes we see negative emotions like guilt and anger and anxiety. We think we need to suppress those and not feel that pain. But in fact, what I'm suggesting is that they can be quite positive in motivating us, getting us out of the rut and moving us forward. When anger becomes rage, well, then that's no good and that's destructive. But the emotion of anger can really drive you forward and make you succeed and do better than you ever thought was possible. So the next time you get angry about something, don't think that you shouldn't be angry and you need to suppress it. Think about how that might help you achieve your next goal. Anxiety. We seem to have a lot of anxiety in our society today, and there's a lot of talk about, oh, we can't be anxious, we need to suppress that. Well, I'm here to tell you that some anxiety is good for us. It makes us prepare more. It makes us concentrate. It focuses us. Now, when anxiety is too much and it becomes depression or distress, then absolutely that's no good and we need to get help. But a little bit of anxiety in your own life, your children's life, that's not a bad thing. And the same goes for guilt. Being a female generally means at some point you're going to feel quite guilty. Are you spending enough time with your husband or your partner? Are you giving the kids enough of your attention? Do you give enough of yourself at work? Sometimes it feels like to be female is to be guilty. And what I'm saying is that's okay because guilt can help you. Guilt can be good and it can help motivate you to change behavior. But when guilt becomes shame, that's when it's destructive. And that's when I want you to jump in and stop it. So what's the difference between guilt and shame? Guilt is, I probably shouldn't have had that 2 glasses of wine and 5 Tim Tams last night. That's not going to help me with my weight loss goals. That's not going to help me have a lot of clarity today at work. That's guilt. That's all good. Shame is, I'm a bad person. I'm so bad. I drank 2 glasses of wine. I'm useless. I've got no self-control. I wish I hadn't done that. I'm never going to be any good. I'm not good enough. Shame hides away in the dark. It's a destructive feeling. So don't let guilt turn to shame, but don't suppress some of those negative emotions like anxiety, anger, and guilt, because they can be positive in helping you change behavior. All right, so that was tip number 1. Tip number 2, the DBT rule. D stands for distract, B stands for breathe, and T stands for time. The next time you feel like having 2 Chelsea buns, a donut, a Mars bar, a glass of wine or 2, and you don't want to, it's a behavior you're trying to change, try the DBT rule. What it is first of all, distract yourself. Often you're just bored. Distract yourself. Great ways to distract yourself are exercising, going for a walk, going for a run, going to the gym, having a hot bath. Try reading a book, doing something pleasurable that you enjoy. So number 1, distract yourself. Sometimes that won't be enough. Number 2, breathe. Take a breath. 5 slow, deep breaths. Deep belly breathing. One hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach. Breathe in slowly and deeply for the count of about 5. Breathe out for the count of 7. The reason that your hand is on your stomach is that when you breathe slowly and deeply, you should feel the bottom hand, the hand that's on your stomach, should go out, not the one on your chest. That would indicate you're breathing very shallowly. So 5 deep breaths. It really does work in the moment. And finally, you've distracted, you've breathed 5 times, you still feel like having the donut. Then take time, take 5 minutes and sit with the feeling that you're trying to distract yourself with, the uncomfortableness. What is it? What is driving you to want to have the chocolate bar, the 2 glasses of wine, the bread, whatever it is? Sit with the pain, the uncomfortable feeling. That's okay. Sometimes it will simply pass. It is okay. As I said before, we don't have to spend every waking moment in a state of resonance and happiness. That's not normal. That's not the normal human experience. So the DBT rule is a simple technique to help you get over those moments that happen to everyone that will sabotage your health goals. 8 times out of 10, if you use the DBT rule, you won't end up drinking the wine, having the chocolate bar, whatever it is, you won't do it. If you're human like me, 2 times out of 10, you'll probably still go ahead, but at least you'll be doing it from a place where you're cognitively engaged. You might do it more mindfully, you might enjoy it more, you'll go slow. You probably won't overdrink, overeat, or overdo it because you've slowed yourself down and you're in the moment. Tip number 3, the power of a polite no. This is a great tip for women of all ages, but particularly you women out there who are in your 30s, you've got young children, you're working in a job, you're used to doing a lot, and you say yes to everyone. Your parents-in-law, your husband, your children, your work colleagues. You're really good at saying yes, and you really like to be liked. Interestingly, during the lockdown period, I had the opportunity to talk to a lady who was in her 30s, who was loving the time she was spending with her family and her children. And when we dived into it deeper, it came back to there weren't all these demands on her time. She wasn't having to divide herself across so many different things. Yes, she was still working. She was still in the relationship with her husband, and she was still there for her children. But she wasn't doing all of the other PTA and other community groups. She wasn't saying yes to a coffee and a dinner and 5 other things with her girlfriends. She wasn't having to say yes to all sorts of things. And when she started to reflect on it, because we started to talk about, so what could you, once life goes back to normal, what could you keep doing? And she realized that when she was saying yes to all of these other things on her time, that meant she was actually saying no to herself, time for herself. It meant she was saying no to time with her children and saying no to her husband. So just remember, it is much better to politely say no upfront and clearly than say yes to everything. Because when you do that, you are saying no to people. Often it's yourself, and often it's the people you really care about. So the power of a polite no, incredibly powerful. Quick tip number 4, confidence plus bottom lining equals respect. In my role here at Precure, I regularly have to run team meetings. We've got some really high performing males and females on the Precure team, and every couple of weeks we come together for a team meeting. I ask everyone in the team to share their answers to 3 questions. The questions are: 1, what are you most proud of over the last 2 weeks? What are you most challenged by? And finally, what are you going to be focused on in the coming 2 weeks? Now, without a doubt, there is a clear difference to the way the males in the Precure team answer the first question, what are you most proud of, to the females. What happens is my high achieving male team members, they clearly articulate what they've achieved. They are clearly proud of it. They are very clear and able straight away off the bat list their achievements. They'll take ownership for them, and you can see in their whole posture and the way they speak that they are confident and they are proud. Now, I see a clear difference when some of my equally high achieving female team members answer that question. Some of them begin with an apology. Most of them always attribute the success to other people, not always a bad thing, but at their own detriment. And sometimes they will say, I'm not really sure, I'm not really proud of anything, and yet I know they've done some amazing things over the last 2 weeks. So what I'm saying is having confidence is really important as a high achieving woman. It breeds success. So remember to articulate and take ownership for the good things that you do. And finally, combine confidence with the skill of bottom lining. Now, bottom lining is the ability to say something with clarity and succinctness and no waffle. Now, if you can bottom line effectively, particularly in work meetings, on committees, you will gain a lot of respect. So think about, what am I trying to say? What's the bottom line? And then say it with confidence and clarity and brevity. Finally, I wanted to leave you today with the last tip, which is keep setting big goals. For many of us, we think that goal setting is something that you do when you're young, maybe in your teenage or in your 20s, maybe your 30s. But certainly once you get to your 40s and 50s, well, you don't need that anymore. I'm here to tell you that's not true. Success is about hitting multiple moving targets. And how do you do that? You do that by continually setting goals. For many of us, particularly those of us who are now in middle age, the problem is not that we aim too high and missed, but rather that we've aimed too low and hit. I'm going to say that one more time. The problem for many of us is not that we aimed too high and missed, but rather that we've aimed too low and hit. If that's you, if you're stuck in a rut, if life is not exciting anymore, if you're bored, then it might be time to design the life you want to live. It might be time to revisit some goal setting. You know how to do this. Set specific, measurable, obtainable, and time-based goals. Make them big, make them audacious. One little caveat with that is don't put your happiness on hold while you wait to achieve that goal. For example, many of us, particularly us females, tend to have this ongoing issue with weight. And we say, when I lose 5 kilos, then I'll be happy. When I lose 10 kilos, then I'll be really happy. What a load of bollocks. Don't put your happiness on hold waiting for those goals to happen. Absolutely set goals, make them big, and go for it. But be happy in the moment and on the journey of achieving them.